Welcome to the Lake Bluff School District 65, good start, Board of Education Truth and Taxation Hearing, December 14th, 2010. Terry, if we could have a roll call, please.
Kim Burke.
Present.
Eric Gagne.
Present.
Eric Wagner.
Present.
L. Fivehouse.
Present.
Terry Kearney, present.
The purpose of this meeting is to allow individuals the opportunity to be heard and comment on the proposed 2010 tax levy. Jane, if we could ask you to introduce the proposed tax levy for 2010.
Well, the Finance Facilities Committee did review the proposed tax levy for 2010, and then in November the board did adopt the resolution approving the estimated amounts for the tax levy, which you will approve later on this evening. The Truth and Taxation Notice was published in the newspaper on December 1st. Bottom line is we are estimating a 2.4% increase in dollars over last year's extensions. That is a levy over last year's extensions. I have not been contacted by anyone in the public wishing to testify before the board at this hearing this evening.
Okay, thank you, Jane. We will now move into the discussion period. Are there any comments from board members?
No.
No? Okay. There being none, we will now move on to, are there any comments from the public? Okay. I then move that we adjourn the Lake Bluff Board of Education Truth and Taxation Hearing for the 2010 tax levy. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, that meeting is adjourned. Give me just a minute. Thank you. And then we'll start our next meeting. All right, I have 6:45 on my cell phone. So we will now go into the Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting. Let's see here. We will return to open session. If we can have a roll call, please, Terry.
Kim Burke.
Present.
Eric Gagne.
Present.
Eric Wagner.
Present.
L. Fivehouse.
Present.
Terry Kearney, present.
Okay. First up this evening, Dr. Hendrickson, if we can ask you to give your presentation.
Thank you. Probably the most exciting thing we had this past month, and it was a short month because of Thanksgiving, was the whole faculty study groups, whereby in the elementary and middle schools in November we had faculty take a look at self-directed learning and then decide areas in which they would be interested in creating action plans and implementing different programs that they created through research. So this will be an ongoing year, maybe longer, for these different groups that are just now forming to create ways in which we can increase the amount of self-directedness in our students. It was very well received, and I have to give a lot of credit to our enrichment team members, Lori Brown, Francis Sales, who is actually out on maternity leave now but helped us, Janelle Carney, Wendy Krieger, and Paige Soulet did a fabulous job putting together this in-service based on Materi Group's self-directed learning. So that was probably the biggest thing we did. A few other things, of course. Janice Heigl came back, did some more work with the Bridges pilot group in the elementary school, and we had a local doctor come and begin a study with the middle school and high school faculty around bike helmet safety. So more on that in the months ahead, as well as, well, no, I'm not going to talk about that because my partner here has a few things that she led as well. I was real excited last week to have the opportunity, sponsored in large part by the Chinese government, to visit China and visit some schools in China, as well as learn about their economy and how that's affecting us and in positive ways and in competitive ways as well. And I came back with a renewed sense of how important it is for us to develop globally aware and globally conscious children, and more interested in Mandarin as a language that we may want to consider here in the future. So I was real excited about the opportunity to go, learned a lot, and hopefully some things will come of it. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just a second, Andy, just quickly, was there an announcement within the last couple of weeks about school performance in China? It seems to me I remember hearing something. Do you remember?
Shanghai just was rated number 1, I think, in the TIMS study. I think it was a TIMS study, which is the National Math Science Study,
Right.
where all the developed nations get ranked.
Right.
And, with some skepticism about that, I would have to say, because China, when you look at pictures of Shanghai, you think of this Houston, this gleaming city of new
Right.
skyscrapers. And it may be. I didn't visit China. I didn't visit Shanghai, but I visited Beijing and Chongqing. Chongqing is in the center, maybe a little west and south. 32 million people in that city, they call it. Depending on how you call a city, maybe the largest city in the world, growing by leaps and bounds every day with just skyscrapers coming up everywhere. And yet, China's goal this past 6 years has been compulsory education for grades 1 through 9 for all students. That's their goal. And that's a developing country goal. When we toured these schools, 6 million kids in Chongqing, 6 million. And we toured 9 schools. And what we saw were calligraphy, engraving, music. I think they were trying to show off the creativity of their students. We didn't see any math, science, social studies. We only saw the key schools. The key schools are the ones where test scores get you into or connections. And you have to wonder in Shanghai how many of the millions of students were tested on the TIMS. So that's where my skepticism about that is. It really is still a developing country in many ways.
And I think we learned at one of the ISB conferences during the last couple of years that China's graduating more fluent English speakers than North America is from high school.
And yet, it was my impression in visiting the key schools of Chongqing
Yeah.
that the fluent English speakers were a long way from being fluent.
Right,
And these
right.
were the high school, the top kids that would be going to university. And right now, about 60% of the kids from 9th grade go on to high school, and about 30% of the high school kids go on to university. So and you can bet, too, the students that were my personal tour guides of the school were probably the best English speakers of the high schools, and they have a long way to go. And so I'm not as frightened by that as I was, by those statistics. You know what, I did learn, though, that only 4% of the schools in our nation are teaching Mandarin, and we have one of them. Lake Forest High School has a Mandarin program, and the kids, we had a speaker come from the College Board who
Right.
was instrumental in setting up Mandarin programs in Chicago, and he spoke so strongly about the placement potential of kids that are studying Mandarin from high school into college, that colleges really favor that. And of course, we know the economics of coming out of college with Mandarin as a fluent language.
Yeah.
So I'm going to promote this to our 8th graders. I'm going to have a meeting in January of 8th grade parents, and hopefully they'll come and hear what I've seen and learned about the importance of possibly switching from French or Spanish into Mandarin and putting that under their belt, because it's a real opportunity we have here in our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Dr. Wertz, we will turn the presentation section over to you.
That's good. That's really interesting.
I'm very happy to introduce, but first thank Lori Brown and Patty Briggs for this presentation and for their hard work on getting our data warehouse system in form, really in a user-friendly format for teaching the administrators and staff to use it, and really enabling us to access this information and use it for improving student learning. They'll tell you about it, and then we'll take questions at the end. Thank you, ladies. Is there a second one? We'll go ahead and get started. So this evening, we're going to give you a brief presentation on Inform, which is actually a data warehouse. And we're going to try and do as much as possible live, but it's really slow, and so the reports are coming up really slowly. So we do have a backup plan. We have it in PowerPoint, so I'll just show you very briefly what it looks like live, and then we're going to the PowerPoint. So what is Inform? It's a data warehouse. So we can put all these different assessments like MAP, ISAT, OLSAT, CBM, all into this warehouse. We can then analyze the results, the scores, and through a variety of different reports, some that they have created, some that Patty and I have created, which you'll see in a moment. And then you can actually drill down and analyze them deeper, historically, across grades. So it really is a nice way to be able to see the data. And then Patty is going to talk a little bit later about the creation of the intervention groups, and it helps us also manage our TI. So I'm going to switch real quickly so you can just see what it looks like live, although I'm not going to stay there because, again, it's a little slow. So this is what it actually looks like. And on the side over here is the shared library. And these are these reports that we have created to make it easier for the administrators or the teachers. And they all have the same reports, but I'll explain a little bit the difference between what administrators can see versus teacher. What you're looking at right here is actually a dashboard showing all the ISATs from 2007 all the way over to 2010 for the math. So we can do a particular subject, and it's showing all the grades so that are currently in our schools right now. So that's why 2007 we only have 2 grades, because the other ones are no longer here. So it's a really nice way to be able to look at the information. I'm going to switch back to our PowerPoint. And here again was the primary dashboard with those reports. Here again are these ISAT reports for math. Here is another way we can also look at the MAP reports, and we can look across the grade levels. So here we have 2009 spring, then we have 09 fall, 010 fall, and then this last fall also. So we can see all the grades. So as an administrator, they can go, how did we do on MAP overall using this program? Then if we want to, we could actually, if I was live, I would actually click right here and be able to blow up just that actual report, but this is what it would look like. So now you get a close-up of how those scores would actually look close up. And I'm going to explain in a minute what all those colors mean for you. The other option we can do is do a chart view. So it's the same information, but in a chart. So now we can see at the top, you have the 8th grade, how many students took it, what was their average RIT score. And then we start breaking it down to at risk, some at risk, and unfortunately it kind of got caught off, but it would be meet standards and exceed standards. So you can see how many of our students fell into those different categories very quickly for each of the grades. Going back again, looking at this view, you can also see we have this called exceed standards. So that is kind of the tan color. The blue is the meet standards. The green is some at risk. And then the final one is at risk itself. If I was live, I would now switch over to a teacher view, but Patty's going to explain how we got those different categories.
First, I want to start by saying when we were working on these different proficiency levels, we take into consideration that the students in our district usually are going to perform stronger than a typical national peer. So that was part of the decision making on the scores that we used. We also based these on research. We discussed this with other North Shore districts, how they were putting their assessments, and the percentiles and the norms for specific assessments. So it was really like we all kind of sat together and figured out what would be the best way. And I mean, I'm not going to get more complicated, but they correspond to certain percentiles.
Okay, so it's nice when we break it into those 4 categories because that works for ISAT, it works for MAP also. So you can see those different categories. Now, if I were a teacher,
I can log in also, and I would be able to say, I want to look at my reports. Again, they would have that same group of reports, but they can only see their students, so they can't see the other students. So if I were a 5th grade teacher, I might want to say, well, I would like to see how my kids did on math over the years, and particularly in reading. So I might pick a subject. And here I'm looking at a subject, how this group of students did over the years on the reading. But this is for all of the reading. So they might say, well, I'd really like to look a little, oh, sorry, this is a chart. So again, you can see the chart view for the same information. But they might want to say, I'd like to see the concept. So I want to see how they're breaking it down into concepts more. So then you can see that there's word analysis, reading strategies, literature, and literary works. The teacher might look at this and say, okay, so I'm noticing vocabulary, we could probably use some work on this, or they may notice this in the class. So then they would go down and they could look specifically, and in this case, at just vocabulary. So now I can look to see, how did my kids do on vocabulary over those years? Is this really a problem? Then they can even say, I just like to look at fall 2010. How many of my kids are, how are they doing? And then what you can do is, and if we were live, you'd see is there's this little picture of a drill. And if you put your mouse over any of these sections, one of these would come up and it would say students in, and it would say, so you could pick, I want to find those students who are in the risk category, some risk category, and it would come up with a chart like this, and it would actually have their name, but we've taken the names off of there. So then they can very quickly see who are these kids that I need to target for vocabulary. So it's a great tool for the teachers from that point of view. Then teachers may say, well, that's great, but I also want to be able to look at individual reports. Administrators can look at individual reports also. And a great example of an individual report use was this year at the middle school. We had an advisory teacher who had a student who just didn't do so well on one test, and he was concerned. So we said, well, let's go look on Inform. And sure enough, we looked and realized that yes, the student had done very well over the years. It was just this one time. And so we could say, might have been a bad day, they might have been sick. So it's a great use of the tool to be able to quickly look up that kind of information. So if you look here, this is what it would look like when you open up a report for a student. You would have all the tests there on the left. The red indicates they didn't meet standards. The green indicates they did. You'll notice this blue line here is kind of going through here. That kind of marks where our district average has been. The light blue is our district average, and of course our school and district average, because we only have one school per grade level, for the grade levels would be the same. And then for the ISATs, you'll notice those orange little dots are for ISATs, and those were the only place where we'd have actually a state average. At the middle school, they also get their grades would come up. These are last year's grades until I actually historically store the grades in Power School. This won't show up. And I should have said at the beginning that this does interface directly with Power School. So it pulls in the information directly, and actually you can see it in Power School itself, which is nice. So a teacher may say, well, that's a lot of tests to look at once. So they may want to narrow it down. They can very quickly narrow it down. And let's say they want to just look at ISAT math for this student. They could look over the years, how has this student done in ISAT math? And again, you can see the little squares that are going to indicate state average, and the blue here, which indicates the district average. And obviously he's green, so he was above, he met standards on all of them. They also might want to say, I want to look at the concepts. They could do that for math or ISAT, and in this case, we're looking at the math concepts across the board here. So now what I'm going to do is turn it over to Patty, who's going to explain how this can be used for curriculum purpose.
So we can use the data to form groups. This is more, it's kind of a way of managing RTI, but I don't want you to think it's just for intervention. Some of the slides will say intervention, but we can also use it for enrichment groups and tier 1 groups. So basically, we have group criteria and student groups, and the data we use to form student groups, they're according to specific criteria, and the criteria are placed. What do you do to wait? Can you click it for me, because I don't know how to click on the double one. Sorry. So the group criteria would be like we could take 3 different math map scores. This is for 3 different grades. I can drill down with that little pencil and it would show you the different scores. So you could put in a set of criteria, a set of scores. This would be between the 25th and 50th percentile, which we had determined a kid would be at risk. So that would be the group criteria. And then once you get the criteria, you can form different student groups. And on the left are different groups that we have in form right now. And at the last one is a reading fluency practice group. I took out the names. This would be a list of students that are currently getting soliloquy in the fluency lab. They're different, as you can see, different grades, and the little diamond there shows that they get soliloquy. It would show all different types of interventions if there was more in for those, for these, these kids. Examples of intervention strategies are morning math, compass learning, Lexia, soliloquy, small group reading instruction, or math or reading enrichment. And just this one? Okay. All right, and then, so this is what intervention strategies looks like on Inform. So this is what we have in right now. And it's, Lori was saying, the teacher's view is different. Lake Bluff, the elementary and the middle school can have separate different ones because they might be a little different for strategy, so it wouldn't be as confusing. And this would be, as I said, the group of students that right now are in soliloquy. And I have gotten, this is a list that I'd had from a reading specialist. Okay. All right, this last one is just a teaser. This is called the Academic Improvement Plan. It's a personalized learning plan that includes information that all that we've just viewed. So if you look on the upper left, you're going to have the students' test history. Down on the lower left, it's a chart and a graph view of those tests. You can also specify specific tests. Over on the upper right, it's a group and intervention history, and down there it would be goals. You could put in academic and behavioral goals. We're currently working on implementing this. We don't have it down. We have it for some students. I mean, it's a process. But that would be something if you did a student search and a teacher, had a class, that would come up for a student. And over the years, when you went to the elementary and the middle school, you could put in your student and you would see what he's had over the years. They'd have exit dates and entrance dates. But it's very complicated, and I could talk about it for hours. So that's coming. And so we're at the end. So we just wanted you to know that it's a data analysis tool, and used in combination with the classroom assessments and the teacher input, we can really use. It's a powerful tool to help us make instructional decisions to meet the needs of our students. Questions?
And to what degree so far, and maybe maybe Nate and Katie need to help answer, I don't know, but to what degree so far are teachers, classroom teachers, embracing this and beginning to dig into it and look at the data on their students and utilize it?
Okay. We've had a target group, a pilot group in goal setting, and at the last half-day in-service, Lori and Patty worked with that entire team to access Inform. They practiced looking at their classes, looking at their individual students, how can they use that data. And I've checked back with a few of them to see exactly how are they using that data. And they're using it both for individual students to see if they have particularly worried about someone who may not be getting an intervention. Is it one thing that they're looking at over time, how they've performed, or their whole class? And they've used it to establish groups for certain novels in class, to provide extra help for some students who maybe have lower scores in vocabulary, and are looking at it for trends in data to see what they can do in their teaching. Are there any weaker areas? Maybe they need to look at curriculum and do some more accessing information on certain parts of the reading or math curriculum. So teachers are embracing it. They were all able to access it on the last in-service day, and we're excited about being able to do some of the things. The first part is getting used to it, and then we'll expand that to teams throughout the school year.
I'll make a comment on this. For the last 5 years, one of the objectives that the school board has wanted to do for the district, but is very difficult to figure out how to do it, was to get as close to having individual educational programs, IEPs, for every student, or getting as close to that as we could. But we knew we needed to have data in order to do that, because the teachers needed things at their fingertips to be able to make quick decisions. Otherwise, how are they going to give individual plans to 25 kids? This is as close to being there as I've seen, and it's very exciting to see this.
And the teachers were very excited to have historical data on their students, to see over the years how have they performed, and use that information to better student
It
instruction.
seems to me that's one of the main things that one works on when developing an IEP for a student, is just collecting information and figuring out what to do. And this
And how
really
to do it.
and how to do this really provides a lot of great info. So very exciting.
Any other questions?
Nice job.
Thank you. All right, next agenda item will be communications. Do we have any communications or questions from visitors this evening? Okay, moving on to reports. Kate, if we could ask you to come up and give the PTO report.
Hi.
So I'll start with the middle school. We just had our book fair there December 2nd and 3rd, and it was also a book drive. They collected books that whole week, and they actually collected over 4,000 books that they donated to Bernie's Book Bank. And then also we collected $2,500 in scholastic points. And the middle school reps had decided that they were going to donate those points to a school in need. And with the help of our scholastic rep, they identified the West Carter Middle School in Olive Hill, Kentucky. It's, I guess, a very isolated school and doesn't have a lot of local support. And they actually put this to the kids and asked them if they wanted to donate to this school or to a local school. And they decided to donate the books that were collected to the local schools. They'll go to Zion in North Chicago, but that the scholastic dollars would go to this school in Kentucky. And this is going to help them beef up their library. It's a middle school, and actually over 70% of the kids at that school are Title I qualified. So it's definitely a school in need. So that was an awesome job by the middle school and middle school students. Also at middle school, Pam Payton and the great PTO volunteers baked cookies for teacher appreciation this week. At the elementary school, in November, we had a poet in residence, Bill Baksinski, and that was actually supported not only by the district PTO and the Lake Bluff Elementary PTO, but also by Alliance. And that was he worked with the kids for a couple days, and then he actually had an evening presentation, which was a lot of fun. I think everyone enjoyed it. We also had time travelers the week of Thanksgiving for the first graders. This was a chance for the kids to rotate through classrooms and sort of see different aspects of the Wampanoag's life. And we do that every year. It was another good time had by all. At the elementary school also, we had a record sale in yearbooks, over 500 orders. And this year, too, they're doing 5th grade dedications, too, which are still being accepted. We also had a new batch of spiritware that went out, and this time a lot of it just said Lake Bluff, not elementary school. And so we actually had quite a few community members participate in the purchase of those items. And there are a few extra items, too, if people are interested. Check out our website. And then, too, Jen Horan and more great PTO volunteers baked cookies for the maintenance and office staff. And also, in lieu of our normal holiday lunch for the staff, they purchased long-sleeve gray T-shirts for the teachers that have the PAWS program symbol on it. And the holiday parties are this Friday at the elementary school.
Great, thank you, Kate. Dr. Asplin and the superintendent report.
Thank you. I have 3 items. First, I came to the Historic Preservation Committee meeting on December 8th to answer any questions that anyone may have regarding the potential raising of East School. And a few neighbors came to ask a few good questions, and the HPC reminded the visitors and those watching on TV that it was that they had only advisory power, but that they were advising that East School should come down because we don't have any use for it. So we did get their blessing to move forward with the raising of East School. So we're still in the process, as you know, of crafting our bid specifications, but everything is moving forward according to the plan that we set out last month.
Kind of roughly, what's the timing look like right now?
Well, the end game is we're talking, June, we think that the building can be down and we can be in the process of renovating the middle school rooms, the science and bathroom.
I look at Jane's.
Bid specs should be on the streets in February.
Right.
We'll ask the board to approve a bid in March, and we can start work shortly thereafter, making sure, utilities and all that. I did meet with Environ last week or week before, asbestos abatement, and we're at a really good time of year to get that done. So we'll look at getting that done in the next 60 days.
Anticipated duration of the whole project?
If we,
Project or?
the East School, if work can get started in April, we'd like to, our goal is by the 4th of July to have the ground, the site kind of ready to go. Maybe seeded, but certainly ready to go. Construction basically over with.
The intent is to be able to grow grass during the summer?
Yes.
Something like
That would be ideal.
But mainly to have the mess and the equipment and the construction done certainly by the 4th of July.
Jane, one last question. Where are we with getting rid of all this stuff?
Well, that's a good question. Today, Kathleen Tomei, and please correct me if there's other people involved, but and Alice Wagner have really kind of taken the lead, and they had Waukegan schools in today. According to Steve Miller, they took about 40% of what was there. I believe North Chicago will be coming in. We're hoping maybe one or the other will also take the playground equipment. Anything that's left, Steve Miller has got a scrap company ready to come and take whatever is left. So we're in good shape, thanks to Mrs. Tomei and Mrs. Wagner for their great assistance in that endeavor. It's a big endeavor.
Would you consider inviting public in to take whatever's there, or what's?
It's just logistics,
Yeah.
if we can get most of the stuff done and go, because we're in such a tight timeline, because
Yeah,
we need to get
right.
asbestos, we need to get it empty so the asbestos abatement can
Right,
work.
right,
But let's see what's
Maybe a
left,
few
if
hours
anything.
one afternoon,
Yeah,
something like that?
we'll see what's left once we get the other school in and that, so.
Second item, just for everybody here to remember that the first Saturday back from the school winter break, we have our board retreat beginning at 8:30 in the board conference room, where we will discuss board goals and some different financial and academic goals that have been stated and the progress that is being made towards completing those goals. And number 3, a big thank you to Kathleen Reedy for completing the digital newsletter. I hope you've all received it, read it, and trying to get an email list of users and non-users to try to get that out to as many people as humanly possible. Anyone who works with me knows I try to print nothing. I don't want any paper, so I really appreciate the digital nature of this newsletter to try to be as green as we can and to reach as many people as we can in a very quick way. So it seemingly has been very well received.
They can go onto the website right on the front page and we are always looking for more subscriptions from the community, especially for non-users, because we have an email address for all but 8 families in our district. So really we have great coverage there, and we're looking for additional email addresses from non-users in Norwood and Lake Bluff, and it's very easy. You can just go right to our website, www.lb65.org, and right on the front page there's a little click box to subscribe to the newsletter. So I would highly recommend it. Thank you.
just one more link in the chain of us trying to be as communicative with the public as possible, and really excited about the possibilities of that digital newsletter, and we can get it out as frequently or infrequently as people demand, so should be a very nice addition. That's all I have.
Thank you. Student Services and Curriculum.
Mr. Blackburn, I attended a cyberbullying presentation, which was a tri-district sponsor between 67, 115, and 65. An informational lecture was presented by a representative from Lisa Madigan's State's Attorney Office on all the ways students are bullied, participate in bullying, the whole gamut, and it was really incredible and frightening and amazing. It's great to see them kind of stepping up and taking a lead and providing some assistance to schools and organizing an effort to support what the schools are already trying to do. We also participated in a community resource partnership meeting. A tri-district school personnel again met with community and parent representatives from Croya, LEAD, LDA, Charmed, the APT, and the PTO. Ann Sorensen and Kate Amaro went on behalf of Lake Bluff along with Kathleen Reedy. And the topic was find the ways for the communities and parents to support the schools in handling tragic circumstances, discipline problems that schools can't necessarily talk about, but really community could do some support of those problems, risky student behaviors, whether they happen at school or in the community. We just brainstormed and talked about ways the community can support and address these issues and provide links and information for parents to access resources. And LEAD is going to take the initiative on providing links on their website and articles on related incidents to help get that information out to the community. And by having schools, PTO, Alliance, those participants, that will help get the information to the community. LEAD is sponsoring a series of informational workshops for parents of students in 5th to 8th grade. In January, they have the Race to Nowhere showing, which is on stress and anxiety in adolescence, checking in with your adolescent, learning how to check in before they check out, and another one on bully prevention, all in January. Just check LEAD's website for that, and those might be pretty helpful for parents. And one information item that I think is great news is that the Student Assistance Program Coordinator position, which was previously held full-time at Lake Forest High School, sponsored by the 3 districts again, will be partially reinstated through a grant which LEAD has secured from the government for 2 days a week at the high school. We have matching funds from a donor, and the sponsor will be named shortly. So we're in the interviewing process. The 3 districts are going to interview actually on Friday candidates to get this person in place to start coordinate events between community and the 3 districts and make sure that we have all our bases covered in that effort. The last thing I want to tell you about is Lori talked just a bit about Inform and the link to Power School. And Lori doesn't even know, but we have a meeting set up for January 11th to search that and brainstorm and talk to Pearson to see how we can get it to be a little more user-friendly with the 3 districts. So,
Thank you. All right, next would be the President report. I don't have anything this evening, so we will move on to standing committees. Whoops. Technology. All right, thank you. District Curriculum Committee, we don't have a representative. Do you have anything on it?
No, but I do have one on the next one. She's not here.
Okay, NSSED?
There is a meeting tomorrow night, which I know Mary Jane hopes to attend. Later on, you'll see tonight that we have a letter to send to NSSED tomorrow. NSSED did send out letters to our parents regarding this separation. I will say that we weren't in the loop that they were going out prior to going out, so we are trying to let our parents know that what's really going on to make sure that there's not a panic, and of course we're going to provide quality educational services for their children, whether we're in SSED or not. To that end, we will be hosting a parent meeting, and we will be getting a revised letter out We were going to host that parent meeting on the 12th of January, but it looks like we're going to be moving it to the 13th because of a conflict. And we're hosting that meeting to try to clear the air with our parents so they can understand what this whole process is of us evaluating SSED and the programs involved. Mainly, of course, as you all know, it's looking at it from a cost and quality education standpoint. We feel an SSED provides a quality education for our kids when we need to use them. However, we feel we could probably do an outstanding job. We know we can do an outstanding job here. It's a matter of sometimes if we only have one student using cooperative efforts, maybe with Lake Forest. And so we're looking at the aim of, one, having our students in-house or as close to our borders as humanly possible. And if we team with Lake Forest, that would be more likely. And that, two, if we can save a great deal of money towards that end, we would be doing that. And we'll review those particulars with you at the board retreat January 8th, and then with the parents at that meeting on the 13th, and then with the general public at some point as well. And I would like to thank Jane and Ann for putting a lot of that data together for us. So they've been looking at what the costs would be to our district if we did move away from NSSED, because there would be some extra costs. So, but that's offset by some extra revenue that would come our way and some other costs that we would then avoid. So the preliminary investigation shows that we are doing the right thing in shining a light on how we operate our special education program in partnership with NSSED. So I know Mary Jane wanted to talk about that tonight, so I will do that in her stead.
Great. Thank you, John. Finance and Facilities Committee.
Not me.
Shared Services, our next meeting is in January. Strategic Plan.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Green Team.
Did not meet.
Social Committee. Okay. On to action items. Personnel recommendations.
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel recommendations as per the attachment.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Okay. Terry, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Al Fivehouse,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Eric Renee,
Yes.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes.
Next would be the approval of the tax levy.
I move that the Board of Education approves certificate of tax levy for 2010 excluding bond and interest.
Second. Okay, any additional discussion on the approval of the tax levy? Okay, Terry, roll call vote, please.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Eric Renee,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Fivehouse, Terry Carney, yes.
Okay, next action item, approval of fee proposal from BLDD Architects for professional services.
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approves the proposed fee from BLDD Architects for professional services regarding the raising of East School and renovation to middle school as per the attachment.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Jane, if you could give us a summary on this one.
Sure. The administration is recommending that you approve this fee. This is a contract for, as Eric pointed out, Raising East School. We did do a little negotiating with them, and in addition to the projects you know about at middle school, we're also having them look at the updating our controls, because not all controls are automated yet in the middle school, so we're going to upgrade those. And we are also having them look at the lower level in the middle school, which was formerly the band room, including the existing choral room and the tech lab. Thank you, Nate. Just to see what walls can be moved and what kind of renovation work could occur there, should there be sufficient funding to do so. We don't think so, but at least we can get some architectural and engineering work done for future reference.
Okay. And this 98,500 is inclusive of everything from start to end?
Absolutely.
Any other discussion needed on this?
Finance and Facilities Committee reviewed this at the meeting in November, I think. Yeah.
All right, Terry, roll call vote, please.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Eric Renee,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Al Fivehouse,
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes.
Okay, next action item, approval of notice of intent letter to withdraw from NSSED. I move that the Board of Education approves the notice of intent letter to withdraw from NSSED as per the attachment.
I second.
Okay, discussion, in addition to what John reported.
You have the letter in front of you. It's fairly simple and short.
Roll call?
Al Pfeifhaus,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Eric Renee,
Yes.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes.
Okay. Intergovernmental agreement with Lake Bluff Park District. I move that the Board of Education approves the intergovernmental agreement with the Lake Bluff Park District as per the attachment.
Second.
John, if you could just summarize.
Sure.
For all this.
What this is doing is just stating whose property is what, and really no money is changing hands. This is just protecting the park district and us, really, to explain. It's kind of a unique situation where the park district, if I have this correct, I'm doing it partly from memory. The park district owns the building on top of land owned by the village, and they're letting us use it. Okay, so.
An example of extreme intergovernmental cooperation.
Exactly.
And this is for the maintenance.
It's for the maintenance, yes. And as part of this agreement, the park district would like use of our trailer that's behind the middle school, as we alluded to last month. And this would allow our maintenance folks to move out of East School and have a warmer, heated, above-ground, dry place to keep their equipment.
And shared resources, too, with the Park District. you know?
Absolutely. Share resources when appropriate with the Park District. And we're very appreciative that the Park District found this space for us. This really went a very long way towards us being able to make the recommendation to raise East School, because we did not have a cost-effective place to put the maintenance crew, and free is the most cost-effective place that we could find. And we're very happy about it, and it's a great place for them, and it's easily accessible to us, everybody. It's right on 176. It's near the elementary school. It's a quick drive to the middle school, so it's an ideal location. So this negotiated agreement, intergovernmental agreement, basically puts us all on strong legal footing to get this job done.
This was one of the first things the tri-board group of the village and the park and the school district agreed to do together. It was one of the real obvious things early on. So we probably started talking about this, 2 years ago? Or a year and a half ago?
I believe it was before me, so it's been a while.
John, is the park district planning to move the trailer that's behind the school?
We're working with them to move it. We've moved it out of where it was onto some hard pavement and got the tires changed, so we'll be,
So we're making progress.
we're thrilled that they want it.
What is it?
The white.
The White Wolf.
Yeah, but is it storage? Is it,
White Wolf.
It's a trailer.
okay,
It has a picture of a
Where
white
we used to
wolf.
keep all of our power equipment.
okay.
It used to be between the middle school and East School before the band room was added. And then it went behind the middle school, and Nate's going to miss it.
Uh-huh.
But we're taking it away. so.
Okay, good, all right.
You don't want to do that.
All right, any additional discussion on the intergovernmental agreement? All right, roll call vote, please, Terry.
Al Pfeifhaus.
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes.
Eric Renee,
Yes.
Kim Burke.
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes.
Thank you. Job description language motion.
I move that the Board of Education approves the language in the job description for the information literacy specialist position as per the attachment.
Second? Okay, a discussion? John, if you could summarize
Sure.
this?
As you all know, last year we did some reorganizing and downsized from some employees and eliminated one job and have created this new information literacy specialist position. And we've been working on the job description for quite a while, and thanks to the administrative team that's finally got done and reviewed by attorneys, and this is its final edition that we're asking you to approve tonight.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
Straightforward.
You do this one?
You can voice vote.
Okay,
this, yeah.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next would be the action item for the amended 2011 Educational Support Personnel Seniority List. I move that the Board of Education approves the amended 2010-11 Educational Support Personnel Seniority List as per the attachment.
Second.
John?
Yeah, I commend Liz and Marilyn on this. We have the most detail-oriented support staff you could imagine. There were 2 dates of hire that were off by like a week. And so theoretically, you probably could have let it go, but they asked what we should do and said, well, let's just approve an amended one so that it actually accurately reflects when these 2 people were hired, even though it was, the month was right, the year was right, it was just like a week off. So we wanted to be right, so this is just clearing that up.
Any additional discussion? Okay, voice vote? Okay, all those in favor of the amended 2010-11 educational support personnel seniority list? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Possible action as a result of executive session? None. Consent agenda approval? I move to approve the following items as displayed on the agenda and the screen on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on any of these items? Okay, there being none, Terry, roll call, please.
Kim Burke,
Yes.
Eric Cornier,
Yes.
Eric Wagner,
Yes?
Al Pfeifhaus.
Yes.
Terry Carney, yes.
Okay. New business. The first reading of the new board policies, press update.
I can give you a full detailed report individually if you want. There was about 20 different policies to update. I've read through them all. Declined to add a couple different ones because they really didn't pertain to elementary districts. But besides that, most of them are response to changes in the law that needed to be done. So there's not really any substantive change in any of them other than in response to law changes.
All right, so we will take action on these in January.
Yes.
Okay. Next new business item would be to revisit the school fees.
Once again, because kindergarten registration is coming up, we want to make sure that we have any new school fees or any changes reflected when kindergarten registration occurs. There has been some talk here that we would entertain raising the kindergarten fees. However, after Jane and I did a pretty thorough review of the fees that we have and looking at all of the different fees that we charge, and in light of the fact that we've spent the last 3 or 4 months reviewing our tax levy, and Jane very adeptly tonight explained that we'll see a 2.4% increase in our levy over extension, but that does mean a rate increase as a result of our drop in EAV. At this point, we are not advocating a raising of any school fees for next year. We think that our fund balances are pretty healthy, and we feel like it's probably another year of let's not do that, and let's see what it looks like next year. But we feel like right now we should try to be respectful to those who are trying to make ends meet at home, and we should really try to keep our own expenses as tight as we can as well. So for next year, we are not recommending any changes.
Good.
Next new business item would be the school calendar revisions, 2011-12.
One thing, we've already approved that last year. However, the federal government, thankfully so late, came out and said they would rather we didn't go to school January 2nd, which we have approved a calendar that says we will go to school January 2nd, 2012. I looked at what that change would mean if we took that day off. Right now, we're scheduled to get out of school on a Wednesday, so that would make us get out on a Thursday. So next month, I'm going to recommend that we amend next year's calendar to make winter break 1 day longer, which would necessitate us going to school 1 day later in June, but it doesn't roll into the next week. So that's in response to the federal government saying that that would be a good idea. So
Why did they say this?
I have no idea.
So we would have 2 weeks and 1 day for winter break.
Yeah, because yes, it goes over into a Monday. I think it's a Monday. Maybe it's a Tuesday. But anyway, yes, it just adds 1 more day to winter break. And no, we wouldn't. We looked at putting it on the front end, but that would mean going on a Monday, and that doesn't seem to make much sense to have people lose the weekend on a winter break. So the recommendation will be to go. I believe it's June 8th instead of June 7th, or it's June 9th instead of June 8th would be our last day. But it's in the middle of the week.
That's in 2012.
2012. Yeah, it does not affect this school year. It's next school year.
Okay. Old business items.
Didn't have any.
Anybody have any? Or any other new business? Okay. It looks like we are down to adjournment. I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting is adjourned.